My grandma saw me using WIC for baby formula, then asked, "Wasn't $200,000 a month enough?" The cashier barely looked up when she scanned the cans of baby formula, but the sharp voice behind me sliced through the grocery store like a knife. "Using WIC?" my grandmother asked, loud enough that every shopper in line turned to stare. I froze with my 6-month-old daughter asleep against my shoulder, one hand still holding the WIC card I never thought I'd need. My grandmother, Eleanor Whitmore, stood there wearing a cream designer coat that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She looked from the formula to the card in my hand, then back to my face with genuine confusion instead of pity. "Wasn't $200,000 a month enough?" she asked. The silence that followed felt endless. The cashier stopped scanning. The elderly man behind Grandma slowly lowered his newspaper. A young mother farther back pulled her toddler closer. I felt every pair of eyes burning into me while my heart slammed against my ribs. "Grandma," I whispered desperately, hoping she would understand that this wasn't the place. But she frowned. "Sweetheart, your grandfather's trust sends that amount every month. It has for almost 3 years." My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might collapse. My husband, Daniel, had told me over and over that Grandpa had changed his will before he died. That I had been left nothing because I had disappointed the family by marrying young. I'd believed him because he had cried when he showed me what looked like legal papers. I'd believed him when he said we had to sell my childhood home. I'd believed him when he convinced me to cash out my retirement savings, saying we needed every dollar to survive while he rebuilt his business. I had believed every single lie. Grandma stared into my face, and the color drained from hers as realization slowly replaced confusion. "Emily," she whispered. "Don't tell me, you never received a single payment." My daughter stirred against my chest. I couldn't answer. I didn't need to. The horror in Grandma's eyes told me she already knew. Grandma grabbed my arm so gently that no one else would have noticed, but I felt her hand trembling. "Leave the groceries," she said quietly. "We're going somewhere." I hesitated, embarrassed by the unpaid formula sitting on the conveyor belt. I can't. This is all I have until next week." Without another word, Grandma handed the cashier her platinum card. "Everything she needs," she said. "And every diaper in stock." 20 minutes later we sat inside a quiet corner booth of an old diner where Grandpa had taken me every Saturday as a little girl. My daughter slept peacefully beside us while Grandma stared at me with tears she refused to let fall. "Tell me everything," she said. I started with the day Grandpa died. Then I told her about Daniel insisting on handling every financial document because I was grieving. I told her how he discouraged me from calling Grandpa's attorney, claiming the legal matters had already been settled. I admitted that every paycheck I'd earned since returning to work disappeared into our joint account that only Daniel truly controlled. When I finished, Grandma slowly reached into her handbag and removed a worn leather folder. Inside were copies of trust documents, monthly bank transfers, signatures, and official letters from the trustees. Every payment had been authorized. Every transfer had gone through. Every single month. The destination account wasn't mine. It belonged to a company I'd never heard of. Whitmore Strategic Holdings, I read aloud. Grandma's jaw tightened. "That's impossible," she murmured. Your grandfather specifically ordered the money to go directly into your personal account. No one had authority to redirect it. She pulled out her phone and dialed someone from memory. Harold, she said the moment the man answered. Drop whatever you're doing and meet me at the Whitmore estate. Bring every trust file concerning Emily Carter. And Harold. Her voice turned cold enough to make me shiver. Call the FBI liaison we've worked with before. I believe someone has been stealing from my granddaughter. My eyes widened. The FBI? Grandma looked directly at me. Emily, this isn't family drama anymore. $200,000 a month for nearly 3 years isn't missing. It's been taken. Before I could process that number, her phone rang again. She glanced at the screen, and her expression changed instantly. That's strange, she whispered. It's Daniel. I watched Grandma answer on speaker without telling him. Daniel's voice came through cheerful at first. Mrs. Whitmore, have you seen Emily? She isn't answering her phone, and I'm worried sick. Grandma didn't respond immediately. She simply looked at me, silently asking whether she should tell him the truth. I slowly shook my head. Daniel, she replied calmly, why would you think she's with me? He laughed nervously. Just a guess. You know how emotional she's been lately. Postpartum depression and all that. My chest tightened. He had been telling people I was mentally unstable. Grandma's eyes narrowed, but her voice remained smooth. Interesting. And how's business? There was a brief pause. Growing, he answered. Actually, we're closing a huge acquisition this afternoon. Grandma silently scribbled a company name on a napkin and slid it toward me. Whitmore Strategic Holdings. The same name from the trust documents. Daniel continued talking, unaware that every word was digging his own grave. Honestly, I'm finally seeing success after years of sacrifice. Grandma thanked him and ended the call without another word. The diner suddenly felt too quiet. Then another phone buzzed. It wasn't mine. It was Grandma's second phone, the one only a handful of people possessed the number for. She answered, listened for less than 30 seconds, and stood up so abruptly her coffee spilled across the table. Her face had gone completely pale. Emily, she said in a voice I had never heard before, Harold just opened the trust records. She swallowed hard before continuing. The money wasn't the only thing that disappeared. She looked directly into my eyes. Someone also filed documents claiming you died almost 2 years ago. The words hit me harder than any scream ever could. Dead? I whispered, my voice cracking as I instinctively pulled my daughter closer. My heartbeat thundered in my ears while Grandma stood frozen, still gripping the phone. She looked as shaken as I felt. Harold, say that again, she demanded. The attorney's voice carried clearly through the speaker. Someone submitted a certified death certificate, Social Security notification, and probate documents stating Emily Carter passed away 23 months ago due to complications after childbirth. The paperwork appears authentic at first glance, but the dates don't match hospital records. My hand started trembling uncontrollably. Daniel had held my hand in the hospital after our daughter was born. He had kissed my forehead, promised to protect us forever, and cried when I nearly died from severe blood loss. Those tears suddenly looked different in my memory. Grandma's eyes slowly filled with rage. "Who filed the documents?" she asked. Harold hesitated for only a second. The legal representative listed was attorney Michael Grayson, hired by Whitmore Strategic Holdings. My stomach twisted violently. That was the same attorney Daniel insisted we use whenever we signed business papers. I had signed dozens of documents without reading every page because I trusted my husband. Now every signature felt like a weapon turned against me. Grandma immediately took control. "Emily, from this second forward, you don't answer your phone. You don't go home. And under no circumstances do you contact Daniel." Before I could respond, 2 black SUVs quietly rolled into the diner's parking lot. A tall man in a navy suit stepped out beside a woman carrying a leather case. Neither looked like ordinary lawyers. They entered the diner, scanned the room once, and walked directly toward us. "Mrs. Whitmore," the man said respectfully. "Special Agent Marcus Hayes." He briefly showed his credentials before turning toward me. "Mrs. Carter, I know this is overwhelming, but we believe you're the victim of a sophisticated financial identity fraud operation." My breath caught. "Operation?" He nodded grimly. "We've been investigating Whitmore Strategic Holdings for nearly 11 months. Until 30 minutes ago, we believed the missing beneficiary was deceased." He opened the leather folder, revealing photographs of luxury homes, private jets, offshore bank transfers, shell corporations, and surveillance images of executives entering a downtown skyscraper. Then he placed one final photograph in front of me. Daniel stood smiling beside 3 businessmen, shaking hands beneath the Whitmore Strategic Holdings logo during a ribbon-cutting ceremony. He wasn't wearing the worn suits he claimed were all he could afford. He was dressed in a custom-tailored tuxedo worth thousands of dollars. Around his wrist gleamed the watch he had told me was a cheap imitation. Special Agent Hayes pointed to the date beneath the photograph. "This was taken the same week your husband told neighbors he couldn't afford baby formula." My vision blurred as every excuse Daniel had ever made crashed together like broken glass. Every late-night meeting. Every unexplained trip. Every argument about money. Every time he insisted I should stay home because the world was dangerous. It had never been about protecting me. It had been about making sure no one realized I was still alive. Before I could even process that realization, Grandma's phone rang again. This time Harold sounded panicked. "Eleanor, you need to leave wherever you are immediately. Someone broke into Emily's old safety deposit box less than an hour ago." Grandma frowned. "That's impossible. It requires 2 authorized signatures." Harold took a deep breath. "Exactly. Security footage shows one signature belonged to the bank manager." He paused. "The other belonged to Emily." My entire body went cold. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I've never been back to that bank." Special Agent Hayes leaned forward instantly. "Play the footage." Seconds later Harold sent the video. Everyone crowded around the screen. A woman wearing sunglasses, a baseball cap, and a medical mask approached the vault with a man in an expensive suit. At first I couldn't recognize her. Then she slightly adjusted the baby blue bracelet on her wrist. I stopped breathing. It wasn't just similar to mine, it was mine. The hospital bracelet I had lost the day I gave birth. The woman removed her sunglasses just long enough for the camera to capture part of her face. Grandma gasped. Agent Hayes cursed under his breath. I felt the blood drain from my body as recognition slammed into me. The woman wasn't a stranger at all. She was Daniel's older sister, Rebecca, the woman who had attended my baby shower, held my newborn daughter in her arms, comforted me after Grandpa's funeral, and somehow was now signing legal documents as if she were me. Before anyone could speak, Agent Hayes' secure phone vibrated. He read the message once, then looked directly at me with an expression that made my heart stop. Mrs. Carter, he said quietly, Daniel just left the Whitmore headquarters. He turned the screen toward Grandma. A live GPS tracker flashed across the map. The destination wasn't his office, and it wasn't our house. It was the classified federal safe house where Agent Hayes had secretly arranged to hide me and my baby within the next hour. For one terrifying second, nobody in the room moved. Special Agent Hayes looked from the GPS screen to the parking lot outside the diner, calculating distances in his head. He shouldn't know that address, he said, his calm voice suddenly edged with urgency. Another agent was already speaking into an earpiece, ordering nearby units to change routes. Grandma reached across the table and took my daughter's carrier, her expression firm despite the fear in her eyes. Emily, listen to me, she said. Your grandfather always believed that when people steal money, they're greedy. But when they steal someone's identity. She paused, her voice growing colder. They're hiding something much bigger. Before I could ask what she meant, Hayes' phone buzzed again. His face tightened. The GPS changed, he announced. Daniel isn't heading to the safe house anymore. Relief barely had time to settle before he added, he's driving to the Whitmore estate. Grandma stood so quickly that her chair scraped across the floor. No, she whispered. Not the estate. She turned to me with a look I had never seen before, part fear, part determination. Emily, there's one room in that house your grandfather never allowed anyone to enter without him. If Daniel is going there. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Within minutes, a convoy of unmarked SUVs raced toward the Whitmore estate. Rain began pounding the windshield, turning the quiet country roads into a blur of gray. I stared out the window, clutching my sleeping daughter while memories flooded back. Grandpa had always disappeared into the West Wing after dinner. As a child, I'd once asked what was inside the locked room. He had smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, one day, when you're ready, everything in there will belong to you. After he died, Daniel insisted the room had already been emptied by the estate attorneys. I'd believed him without question. As we pulled through the estate gates, flashing police lights illuminated the massive stone mansion. The front doors were wide open. Security guards stood handcuffed on the front lawn, their faces pale with embarrassment. They were drugged, one officer reported. Whoever came in knew the security system better than the staff did. Grandma's jaw clenched. Someone from inside helped them. Hayes motioned for everyone to stay behind him as agents spread through the mansion. Every hallway echoed with hurried footsteps. Then, from somewhere deep inside the West Wing, came the unmistakable sound of a heavy steel door slamming shut. Hayes sprinted toward the noise, with Grandma and me close behind despite every officer telling us to stay back. We reached the hidden hallway just as two agents forced open a reinforced oak door. Beyond it lay a private vault unlike anything I'd ever imagined. Shelves of sealed files lined the walls. Military medals rested inside glass cases. Original trust records filled locked cabinets. A massive portrait of Grandpa overlooked the room as if he were still guarding every secret within it. But the first thing I noticed wasn't the documents, it was Daniel. He stood in the center of the vault with a duffel bag overflowing with cash, passports, hard drives, and legal files. Beside him stood Rebecca, still wearing the same bracelet from the security footage. Daniel slowly raised his hands, not in surrender, but with an unsettling smile spreading across his face. "You're late," he said calmly. "I already found what your grandfather was really hiding." He lifted a thick sealed envelope marked for Emily only. Before anyone could stop him, he tore it open, unfolded the first page, and laughed. "Well," he said, looking directly into my eyes, "this changes everything." Agent Hayes took one step forward, but Daniel held up another document. "Move another inch," he warned, "and everyone in this room learns why Emily was never supposed to inherit just the money, because her grandfather wasn't protecting a fortune." His smile widened into something chilling. He was protecting the truth about who she really is. The entire vault fell silent. Even the agents with their weapons drawn seemed to hesitate. Daniel held the opened letter high enough for everyone to see, but carefully kept the words hidden from us. His smile wasn't the smile of a desperate man cornered by federal agents. It was the smile of someone who believed he had just found the one secret capable of destroying every case against him. "You all think this is about stolen money," he said, laughing softly. "It never was." Special Agent Hayes took another measured step forward. "Daniel Carter, you're surrounded. Put the documents down." Daniel ignored him completely. His eyes stayed locked on mine. "Emily, did your grandfather ever tell you why your birth certificate was amended when you were 5 years old?" My heart skipped. "Amended?" Grandma gasped so sharply that every head turned toward her. For the first time since this nightmare began, she looked genuinely frightened. "Daniel," she warned, "you don't know what you're holding." He chuckled. "No. I know exactly what I'm holding." He waved the first page. "This letter explains why an FBI director, a decorated Army general, and a federal judge attended your 8th birthday party." Confusion washed over me. I remembered those people only as Grandpa's old friends. They had brought strange gifts, saluted Grandpa before leaving, and called me young lady with unusual respect. I had never questioned it. Daniel slowly folded the letter. "Your grandfather built an entire fairy tale around your life. He convinced everyone it was for your protection." His voice hardened. "But secrets this big always come with a price." Grandma finally stepped forward, her back perfectly straight despite her trembling hands. "Emily," she said quietly, "there's something your grandfather wanted to tell you himself. He planned to do it on your 30th birthday." Tears welled in her eyes. "He ran out of time." Before she could continue, Daniel interrupted with a mocking clap. "Touching. Truly touching." He reached into the duffel bag and pulled out another sealed folder stamped with the seal of the United States Department of Justice. Agent Hayes immediately recognized it. "Don't open that," he shouted. Daniel smiled wider and deliberately broke the seal. Rebecca looked increasingly nervous beside him. "Daniel, we should leave," she whispered. He ignored her. His eyes scanned the first page before his expression suddenly changed. The arrogance disappeared. The color drained from his face. He reread the document twice, then looked at me with complete disbelief. "No," he muttered. "That's impossible." Hayes noticed the shift immediately. "What does it say?" Daniel didn't answer. His hand actually started shaking. Rebecca tried grabbing the papers, but he shoved her away. "You lied to me," he hissed at her. "All these years, you lied." She stumbled backward, panic spreading across her face. "I only knew what Grayson told us," she cried. "He said she was just a trust fund beneficiary." Daniel stared at the document again before whispering, almost to himself, "She's not a beneficiary." The room held its breath. "She's the legal controlling heir." Before anyone could react, the reinforced vault door slammed shut behind us with a deafening crash. Every light flickered once before emergency red lights flooded the room. An alarm echoed through the estate. One of the FBI agents rushed to the door and cursed. "It's locked from the outside." Hayes grabbed his radio. Nothing but static answered. The signal had been jammed. Then a hidden speaker crackled to life. A calm male voice filled the vault. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Grayson, Daniel's attorney. The same man who had handled Grandpa's estate. If you're hearing this, then someone has entered Mr. Whitmore's private archive before completing the final verification protocol." Grandma's face turned ghost white. "He activated it," she whispered. Grayson's recorded voice continued. "The vault will remain sealed until the rightful Whitmore heir completes biometric conformity.